turned off. Oh, there we go. Oh, oh.
What are the readings on that? What
are the readings on what? Oh,
on the how are the levels?
Oh, levels are looking pretty. Oh,
oh.
We're probably a little bit too loud, but yeah, we're good to go. Oh, I think I turned off the show music. We're a little silent. Now we have the show music back on. Now things are lively. Now it's a party.
Yeah. Party really just livened up a little bit.
That's right. I turned the party off when we were streaming Lethal Company.
Ah, yes. You know, it needed to be it was a little bit more serious, you know, a little bit more
atmospheric.
Somber. Yeah, that's right. I had to hear the monsters
eating us instantly and us dying with no chance.
The game's hard, but it's pretty fun.
It's hard. It's a little frustrating with how hard it is in spots. I'm just like, it needs a little bit of balance.
Yeah, I agree.
Wow. That's Leviathan Den with a sub. Now, you didn't hear that because I also forgot to turn on the Windows sounds, but Leviathan Den gave us a sub.
Thanks, Leviathan Den.
Thanks, Leviathan Den. That sounds sarcastic when I do it, but I promise you, it's very real.
No, that's just how you sound when you're thankful.
Well, I can't believe.
He has trouble with gratitude, so he does like a weird verse. It's like a voice. It's like a weird, like nervous habit.
Exactly. You're so right.
Anyways. Says, move is going great into the new digs, and Liz and I couldn't be happier. Love you guys. Oh, hey, we love you too. Happy the move is going well. Moving is the worst, but when you're like moving into a place that's like an upgrade, it's always exciting.
Yeah, moving sucks, but then once
I hate the action of moving, but it's worth it.
I've done the action of moving so many times. It gives me genuine. Oh, it's always given me anxiety actually, but it's a very anxiety-inducing thing. Wow. Oh, that's Lazeze with a subscribe. Thanks for the subscribe.
A hype train.
Whoa. We must not have the...
We've never had two people like us in a row.
Wow. We must have set the bar really low, because you can set like how hard it is to get a hype train.
I don't know. Well, we're at level 1. We appreciate you guys.
The
dynamic duo, both giving us a like.
That's right.
Glad the move's going well.
To be fair, even with such a low bar, we still have not had a hype train in quite some time.
I was going to say, is it that low of a bar? It's
not like for us.
Often. You know, if you set the bar low, you succeed more often.
That's true. Thank you guys for the subscriptions. Thanks for being here. It's another wonderful episode of Drebin. I hope everyone's doing well. Glad to hear the move is going well. I'm excited for you guys. Like I was saying earlier, I hate the action of moving, but the best feeling is when you finally like realize like, oh, I'm comfortable in this place. And that's a good feeling. Is like when you finally...
I hate to move, but I hate to be moved. Or I hate to move, but I like to be moved.
Yeah. I'm moved by something. I don't know. Anyways, welcome to another episode. Moving on. That's right. We're speaking of moving. It's another episode of Draw Bomb. It's just you boys, your Draw Bomb. It's the show. This is it. This is what you get, and is what the show is. That's the tagline.
We draw bombs.
We draw, and there is a bomb. Boy oh boy, what a riveting thing you've decided to spend your time doing. Brandon,
I just love an opportunity to draw with my friends, you know?
Me too.
Great time.
It's fun to bullshit and just doodle.
Yeah.
Brandon.
Yes, Ian.
What have you been up to this week? What have you been doing?
Gosh, so it is starting to be a busy season for me. It's in both my jobs, so that's been taking up a lot of my time. I live in the woods now, so it turns out when you live in the woods, there's lots of leaves that you have to clean up nonstop, and they just keep falling, and they just keep falling. They don't stop falling.
They don't stop falling. They don't stop falling. Back to the leaves, and I hit the ground falling.
Takes up some time. So that's fun. Getting stuff around the house ready for winter. I don't know, taking down Halloween decorations. This is really boring stuff. I'm sorry.
Well, you're going to be thrilled to know that I don't have much more to report on.
I'm a middle-aged woman, and house decorations and cleaning up leaves. This is my life now.
Are you kidding me? Cleaning up leaves is a Hank Hill type of job. So if anything, you're a middle-aged man. Boy, I tell you what.
I'm just middle-aged. I don't think I guess didn't need to put a gender on it, really.
Yeah, how dare you?
I'm doing old people things.
Are you really middle-aged though, or is this just like what our parents did when they were 20s?
Yeah, maybe.
Like when life was a lot easier to not like.
I think it's a 30-year-old activity.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's fair.
But I'm there, so I guess I'm right on track.
You sure are. This looks like a water gun, right?
So far, because you only have a rectangle with the. Okay, you're attempting that. Okay, good. The colors will also help sell that, and you need like a big barrel at the top.
At the top?
Do you have the well, I mean, I'm picturing the classic Super Soaker I had as a kid was the big like neon yellow one with like the orange or green. I think it was a green like bubble on top. It was kind of like like this. Kind of looked like a paintball gun kind of.
It is a little bit. It's a paintball gun for. I mean, that's what this this weird dome is at the top. It's supposed to be the water holder, but I didn't want to like take up too much of the screen space with a giant water tank.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm just trying to remember what this looked like.
You're trying to go back to your mind palace and
dig in to
Yeah.
Picturing me trying to get a turn from my brother. My turn with the water gun. You never get a turn.
I never managed to get enough friends together to have a water gun fight. Like, I never managed to get a gang together to do like a proper water gun fight. Like, I had water guns, not that many, but I had like a couple. And then it was always just like, okay, I guess I'll squirt my brother, and I guess he'll squirt me back.
Yeah, I guess it was mainly me and my brother too, but that's still fun. I don't know. I think we'd have like water balloons and the hose, and we'd be running around.
I think so too, but sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say at one point our parents got us like it's a Super Soaker, but it had like a backpack that hold water. So
wow!
Basically, like you were set up, but it was also heavy for a child, so you're like running around, big sloshing like 4 gallons of water on your back, or at least that's how I remember it.
You knew what it was like to be that guy from Predator with the giant machine gun.
Exactly.
But yeah, the commercials for oh shit, I just killed a bug on my screen. No, I don't like killing bugs. I'm just trying to scoot it away.
You don't know your strength. You're just demolishing living creatures with your sheer force of will.
But the commercials for Super Soakers were always like, it would show like a group of like 13 or like 16 kids like all having a big battle with each other and like running like around a playground with a slide and being like, I got you, oh man. Which looked like a lot of fun, but it really paled in comparison to what I was ever able to achieve by myself in terms of actual play. Yeah,
spraying yourself.
Yeah, essentially. Like,
I got me again.
Does it hurt if I shoot me in the mouth? Tasty.
Drinking out of the hose, just drinking straight like mold water or whatever is going on in there. Weird.
Probably not the most sanitary water.
It's all right. We're still here to talk about it.
It's good enough for the plants. All I got was a brain worm.
Gotta love the 90s commercials. They really, I think, did a good job of channeling the way that kids saw the games or like the actions they were taking, the games they were playing, like their imagination. Everything was like in weird dystopian like voids and like you're like it's like all right, how do we make a commercial for a squirt gun? Okay, how about it's like an actual battlefield in the future and the squirt guns are shooting lasers. There's some of the kids are riding on like mecha dinosaurs, and then at the end it's like, buy the new Super Soaker.
Yeah. How do we sell this board? How do we sell this board game where you fire little metal marbles back and forth at each other? Maybe put them in like a fucking holodeck, and there's like everyone's wearing like fingerless gloves, and there's a guy singing a metal song going like crossfire.
And if you lose, you get shot into the void like the villains in Superman 3.
Yeah, they knew how to sell the fantasy. And the thing is, like, I've thought about this. Like, sometimes I look at modern day commercial, and like, you know, you're on YouTube. Sometimes you get ads for like kid shit, or I don't know. Like, I don't watch a lot of TV channels that like I get advertised kid shit anymore. But I have to assume it's slightly more realistic just based on like my YouTube experiences, and it's kind of like, or just the, you know, technology has advanced so much that like maybe some of the shit that they pretended was possible with your toys back in the 90s is now possible. I don't know. But I wonder if like kids get fooled the same. I'm sure they do. I'm sure like you could still show like a boring board game and be like, this is the game, you roll the dice and you do the thing, you have fun.
When I asked for Crossfire at Christmas, I wasn't expecting to actually be able to shoot the neighborhood kids into the void, you know, in like an alternate like dimension or something. So I think it doesn't have to be like a trick straight up. Like, you don't have to be like, the kids are going to think this is what this is. Yeah. And part of it is to make it seem cooler than it is, but I don't know. I think it was just to be like, here's something cool. That one though, like that, I mean, people still talk about that commercial, so that would obviously is like above and beyond everything else.
I just remember being much more malleable to the whims of commercials, and you know, that's probably a lot of it is just like you don't learn that commercials are a lot of fluff. But I just remember being very malleable as a kid too. Like I remember I bought that Hey You Pikachu game for the Nintendo 64 because I was like, oh my god, it's like an artificial intelligence. I'll get to talk to Pikachu. And
I've always been talking to Pikachu, but he'll finally respond.
Yes, through the screen.
How was it?
Yeah, it was alright. It was not at all. Like, it was a lot of like shouting at the game and being like, no, Pikachu, I'm just go talk to the Oddish. The Oddish on the dock.
Like a big microphone attached to your N64 controller or whatever.
Yep.
I remember my cousin had it, but I never saw him play it. I don't know anything about it.
So I can tell you all about Hey You Pikachu.
I know some about it, but I don't know anything about how it actually plays.
I can tell you everything about it. There was like 5 maps, and
here's what I want to know very first before you give me the breakdown.
Okay.
When you got the game as a kid, were you like, oh, this sucks, or were you like, hell yeah?
It was more like a slow burn. It was like an excitement that slowly like revealed itself to be disappointment, you know? Sure. And sort of like that's when my attitude was like, never again will I be fooled.
That was the game that you know, shook you out of the hypnosis or whatever.
Exactly. It was like, hey, you, look at what you're doing with your life. But the game was like, you get the Pikachu, and then you get like 5 possible maps that you can like play with it on, and like it's always the same. It's like, hey, tell the Pikachu these vegetables to pick, and you're like, okay, Pikachu, go grab the carrot. No, the carrot. Okay, you got the carrot. Good. Okay, Pikachu, now get the radish. No, put that down. Pikachu, put that down. Pikachu, put it. Come here, Pikachu. Come here, Pikachu.
You're going back in the ball. You don't knock this shit out. You're going in the ball.
God damn it, Pikachu. And then you had like little activities.
Know what I'm saying, you son of a bitch.
I know you can hear me.
You hear me.
I have a microphone.
Pikachu, you just flipped me off. Fuck you, Pikachu.
Fuck you, Pikachu. I did reach a certain point as a child where so every night you would finish your activity with the Pikachu, and it would be like, okay, Pikachu's going to bed, say goodnight to the Pikachu. And they wanted you to do this like every night. They wanted you to say goodnight to Pikachu. So like after a while, I would just tell it like, I fucking hate you, Pikachu. I'm gonna fucking kill you when you're asleep. I'll fucking cut your fucking neck.
Why wouldn't he do what you ask him in the garden after the next day? I don't understand.
That's so weird.
When you're so friendly to him.
And then, so yeah, you do the same 5 maps over and over. And here's how the game works: is you were supposed to play the game, and like the game ends after day 365 of doing these same like 5 maps over and over again. And sometimes like something's different about the map that kind of shakes it up, but not really. But what happens is at the end is it's like day 365, because like what the premise is like, oh, we've had this Pikachu, and you know, it's
your Oak.
That's my Professor Oak, and it's like, oh, you've had this Pikachu. Oh wow, we need someone to talk to it and train it because it seems very friendly. And then you hang out with the Pikachu for 365 in-game days, and then all of a sudden at the end it's like you reach day 366 or whatever, and it's like, well, that was cool. Say goodbye to Pikachu. And that was it.
Oh, he leaves?
And he's like, oh, we gotta take the Pikachu back. And it's like, oh okay. Great.
What the hell is, who is this professor?
He's a monster.
That just outsources all his work to
children. Yeah, I don't know, what a weirdo. Child labor, I tell you what.
Yeah, it exists in the Kanto region.
It does. So that was Hey You Pikachu, and you can find a Togepi, and you just kind of like see it, and that's
right,
it.
because you can only control Pikachu, right?
Yeah, you can make Pikachu pick up the egg, but Pikachu will mostly just like look at the egg and be like, huh, what's that? Okay. And then go about his like not listening to what you're fucking saying. Because they programmed a little bit of...
You better be careful that these Pokemon don't unionize.
Yeah.
You're never going to be able to get them to do what you want.
They made those Pokemon games for the Game Boy where you could actually like pet and like talk to, because the Game Boys have like a microphone on them, and they have like that functionality sort of where you can like pet it and like give it food and like talk to it. And every time I open it up, all my Pokemon just give me like 1,000-yard stares and sort of just like...
He's back.
Oh no. This is the guy that said he's gonna cut Pikachu's throat.
I just picture the moment you like realized you had been ripped off is like one particularly frustrating like round of trying to play the game. You're like, fuck this. You go to turn it off. The screen flips black, and all you see is the reflection of yourself sitting on the couch.
The true Black Mirror.
A sucker.
When I look at myself, all I see is pain.
I wouldn't listen to me either, Pikachu.
God damn it, no wonder you didn't get the vegetables. Who am I to tell you what to pick up and put down? So yeah, that was Hey You Pikachu.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I kind of almost put it together. I didn't have an N64, so it wasn't even like really like on my... I mean, it was on my radar because I like Pokemon and it was new technology, so to speak, kind of. But I was just like, there's no, way I play this or get this, so I guess I don't care that much.
Right.
But my cousin who had it, I never once saw him play it. So I'm like, that tells me something.
Yeah.
He probably did play it and was like, this up.
It's like when it's like when a new movie comes out and like nobody talks about it after like seeing you can't escape the trailers for this movie. Then the movie comes out and then like you just never hear about it again. It's like,
yeah, it tells you a lot. Basically.
But yeah. Brandon, what are we drawing here?
So you just got done playing Resident Evil 8 on your stream.
Yes.
I also replayed it in third person, which you can do with the DLC. Good friend of the show, Maddie F, played 7 and just finished 5. And now you and I are playing 5 off stream. I mean, unless we want to do it on stream, but I just figure Maddie F just did it. But
yeah.
So yeah, we're in the Resident Evil mood. So we're drawing our little take on that. Spooky season may be over, but they can't make us stop.
Spooky season never stops in my heart.
It never stops. Exactly.
Can't stop, won't stop. So you've played 7 and you've played 8.
I have.
What are your thoughts on them?
I love them both. They're similar but also very, very different. 7, I think 7 is when Resident Evil kind of like came back from...
It did, yeah.
The dead. No, yeah. no pun intended.
Hey.
But they kind of... 4 was great, and they came out with 5, which got mixed reviews, and then I think everyone hated 6, and then they did some weird like in-between things and some some like remakes and stuff that didn't land too well, and then I think they took a step back and reevaluated, and they came out with 7.
Yeah.
And I think 7 was awesome. First person, so that's something new they did. And it's also just so atmospheric. They really just like the sound design and everything. Like it's really genuinely scary. Resident Evil's, I mean, you know, everybody's different, but I think Resident Evil has always kind of been like kind of spooky and stuff. But like this one really just like it's kind of, you're in it. You feel like you're there.
Yeah.
It's immersive. It's scary.
7 was the Resident Evil like that I'd always hoped for, you know? It had cool puzzles, it was fun, it had like a nice narrative to it. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, 4 was great, loved 4, but 4 wasn't really scary, except for like the regenerators maybe. But
4 was like an action game.
Yeah.
It's like, even your characters, like, just like dropping like action one-liners and stuff, like they're leaning into it. He's like diving through windows, and he's like being like chill after like you know,
throwing a monster in a cryogenic freezer,
like an icicle or something. Yeah, exactly. That's a better example. Stuff like that. So it's just very action movie. And yeah, so it's not that scary, but it's fun. 4's great.
4's great. 4. Look, the Resident Evil series has always been, if anything, has been like a groundbreaker in video games. Like before 4, over the shoulder like third person shooters hadn't really figured out what the fuck they were doing, and 4 kind of really, because like 4 came out at a time, there used to be a time period, ladies and gentlemen, where video games had no idea what the fuck they were doing. So like every game you'd get would be kind of a luck of the draw, because like they had, like nowadays every gameplay mechanic has been like tested, has been figured out, has been like pretty much done. I mean, you know, there's still obviously things to find, but you know, back then, like no one had still really nailed a good over-the-shoulder third-person shooter. In fact, back then, third-person shooters weren't over-the-shoulder, it was over the head, and you would see, like, your whole dude running around, and then, like, he'd be in the center of the screen, and, like, you'd have an aimer in the center, and he'd be, like, taking up most of the screen, like Max Payne. And it wasn't until Resident Evil 4 where people who were making third-person shooters were like, oh, wait, you can put the character off to the side? What the fuck? And that was the big turning point in video games, was sort of that breakthrough. And so 4 pioneered that. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I think, yeah, like 3D was like a hard nut to crack. And I feel like if it's gotten to the point now where you can, you know, anything they make from now on will be replayable in the future.
Yes.
It's not, same can't be said about everything in like the N64, PS1 days.
That's a good way of putting it.
Some of them are still great, but some you try to get in there and you're gonna have a bad time because they're still finding their way around. It's like, you know, once they tighten it all up, it's replayable forever. It's like you can go back and play games older than PlayStation 1 that were 2D because they had that figured out. They had it down. Yeah. You can play some Super Nintendo and it will still feel great forever. But yeah, some of the early 3D stuff was a little rusty.
Yeah, that like because this was like I want to say that Resident Evil 4 came out not towards the end of the PlayStation 2 cycle. I want to say it came out maybe in the middle of it, but maybe not, because Resident Evil 5 I feel like came out not long after, and that was on the 360. So that was the next. So maybe Resident Evil 4 came out towards the tail end of the PS2's life cycle and the GameCube's life cycle, and I don't think it was ever on the Xbox. But what you said about games being replayable now is very true. Is that like games, like for instance, Silent Hill 2 is still one of my favorite games of all time. Oh, one sec, this fucking okay. Silent Hill 2, one of my favorite games of all time, but it definitely was at the beginning of the PlayStation 2 life cycle that it came out, and like it was still in that period of time where they were still figuring out like, oh, how do we make games work with 3 dimensions? And so you know, Silent Hill 2 has aged less gracefully than a lot of games that we see nowadays, because the gameplay on it was still like very rough because they still hadn't figured out, like, the camera is kind of shit, and like you have to like hold down R2 to like center the camera behind your character and look where you're actually like walking, and then it's still got the tank controls, and like your attacking sucks. And they didn't have it all figured out. Now, I mean, and then eventually Silent Hill games would actually adopt the same type of camera style that Resident Evil 4 had. But it's just a shame that Silent Hill games after 4 all sucked, apparently. I mean, I haven't played any past 3, but no one talks about any of the games past 4, except for maybe Shattered Memories, which I've heard some people say is great. I heard people say Shattered Memories was great when it first came out, and now whenever I hear people talk about Shattered Memories, they're like, oh, that one sucks. And I'm like, really? I thought it was supposed to be like really good when it came out. So I don't know about that one, but like, there's like, the first Silent Hill game that came out for the PS3 was Homecoming, and that has the Resident Evil 4 camera angle. So it's like, they didn't have that shit figured out. And so it's hard to go back and play Silent Hill 2 if you've never like played it back when it was still kind of like fresh, because the gameplay has aged not so great, which is why they have like Bloober Team remaking Silent Hill 2, which I'm not super.
I hope the remake's good. I know you're not, but as somebody who never really got around to the original, and it would have a hard time. I mean, I could do it, but I would have a hard time.
Yeah,
going
you
through
could.
It now.
I think you would get used to it after
they nail it.
I think you would get used to it before long, but yeah, I mean, I hope, like, don't get me wrong, I hope the remake is great. I am still of the firm opinion that if you release a remake of a game, you should bundle with it as a separate install the original, for the sake of
that'd be a great precedent to start doing.
For the sake of posterity. Oopsies, I just got a comment, a message. Or anyways, but yeah, I don't think they'll do that, unfortunately, but they should. Just for the sake of... I don't think
anyone has yet. I don't think I've ever seen that happen, but that's a good idea.
I think one game ever did that, but I don't remember what it was. But no, they don't do that normally. Like Metroid Prime, when it did a remaster, not only did it not come bundled with the original, because I mean, apparently the Metroid Prime remaster was pretty much the same game, they just like updated the graphics. But what's fucked up about the Metroid Prime remaster is that not only did they not bundle the original game with the remaster / remake, whatever you want to call it, but they didn't even credit the team that made the original game in the credits of it. Like, it's just the new team that did the remake, and the original team doesn't even get any credits in the new Metroid Prime remake, which I think is fucked.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, I think they should bundle, and I'm not the first person to be saying this. I've definitely heard this be said on like The Escapist. I've heard, I don't know, some other YouTubers say the same thing, and I'm of that mind. But you know, the closest to that is that Konami did just release a bunch of the Metal Gear Solid games. I think 1, 2, and 3. For PC, and like it's like just the original games with like updated textures and things like that, although apparently they were super lazy about it, and like there's a bunch of shit that's wrong with it, like you don't get proper widescreen support, and you can't get above like 30 frames per second, and then like modders went in and fixed all that in less than a week. But Konami's also kind of shit. Yeah, I mean, modders again, this is a thing I could rant about all day every day, but modders and like bootleggers and the people who like sort of illicitly preserve or like modify art that's more digital are the only reason that we have a lot of the things that we have. Like the reason that we only ever still have Nosferatu is because there was bootleg copies made of it back in the day. The creator of Nosferatu was sued for copyright infringement of Dracula, and so every copy of Nosferatu was ordered to be destroyed. And you know, the government carried that out, but because there were bootleg copies made,
they come to your house and be like, "You have any Nosferatu here?"
Dude, I have no idea. Maybe it was like a gun buyback program.
Have copies in your house.
Yeah, probably not. You probably like it was probably like movie theaters had copies.
Go see it somewhere. Yeah.
Maybe it was like a gun buyback program where you have copies of Nosferatu. Come turn it in, and we'll burn it, and you get $30.
We'll give you a copy of Dracula.
Yeah. But you know, so that was a whole thing. But because people had bootlegged copies of the movie, that's the only reason we still have that movie today. Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to say than that.
I know that.
Yeah. So, you know,
pretty interesting.
Modders, people who kind of take art and break its digital confines and sort of make it more widely available than is intended by the creators, or at least the publishing companies more specifically, are the only reason we have a lot of the things that we do. Yeah, I mean,
the only thing that I hate about that, I actually don't, I mean, I don't hate it about that, but the only thing that, like, the side effect of it is, I forget who I saw, I think it was Bethesda said something when Starfield came out. I just saw a passing comment where somebody was asking for something, and they're like, no, that's not in it, but we're excited to see what modders do. And it's like, don't
yeah,
build the game yourself. Don't rely on them.
Yeah, seriously.
To fix your problems. Like, I mean, I enjoyed Starfield. That's not like a Starfield comment. It's just in general, the consensus is you can release unfinished games, and
because the modders will fix it.
And modders will fix it, or people will wait for patches. It's just this weird culture now. I know some of that is that games are just getting too big for like a team to actually be able to make in any kind of real way, but there's got to be some balance. There's got to be something.
Something's got to give.
Because I don't like crunch. I think that's all bad, but I also don't think the consumer is the one that should pay for it. It should be like, like the person. If I'm paying for a full product, I want the full product. And if I'm not saying that people should be crunched, but studios should be given more time and resources to complete their projects. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's the interesting thing too. So like, you know, City Skylines 2 was sort of at the center of this sort of controversy where that game was released in a state that was apparently very taxing on computers and like just did not run properly. Now when I played it recently, I did run into like one issue where like I was placing a cemetery and that started to like bog the game down, but then once I placed it, it was fine, and that was really the only issue I ran into performance-wise with City Skylines 2.
Okay.
But I hear there's maybe like other things, and like I will say, like when I play the game, I've played it for like 2 hours, but my time playing with it, there were like a couple of features that felt like they were in City Skylines 1, and these were like quality of life features that were all of a sudden like weirdly absent in 2.
Oh, no.
And I was like, why would you not design this? So like for instance, and this is like, this sounds super minor, but for me it's like kind of it's not a big deal, like it's not like it's gonna make or break the game for me, but like it's kind
of
quality of
life makes a huge difference if it's
it always yeah, it adds up. But so like for instance in City Skylines 2, you set like the budget for different city services and things like that. So like if you're producing too much water, you reduce the budget for the water services, you make less water, you save some money. But but you can also, like, when you're messing with the budgets, you can actually like open up a panel on the side that tells you like how much water you're producing, like what your output is versus like what consumption is, you know? And so you can like tweak it and then see an immediate effect on like what you're producing versus like consumption. So you can kind of like really hone those numbers in and like get the most like efficient sort of like bang for your buck with those city services, which is very vital to like keeping and earning like money.
Sounds like it. It seems like it would be hard to even keep track of it without that.
Yeah, and so in City Skylines 2, you still have those same functionalities. Like there's still a bar, you can check that, like, you know, it's how much consumption is versus output, and you can still like modify the budget so that you're producing less of the thing versus like your consumption. However, you can't open the panel up that tells you the consumption versus like the output and tweak the budget at the same time, which is like, it's such a minor feature, but it's like, why is that not there?
If it was in the previous one, then you should just take everything that's in the previous one and build on it. And the only things that you should remove are things that you're replacing with something even better.
Exactly. And I will say, like, there are a lot of functionalities and features in base game City Skylines 2 that were like add-on, like DLC, that you had to purchase separately for City Skylines 1. Like, for instance, you can now set specific industries. You can set Like there's day-night cycles, which, you know, I could talk about those. Those are kind of like those have their pros and their cons. But there are like things that you can do in City Skylines 2 that you used to have to like purchase DLC to have those functionalities, and that's cool. Like it's the opposite of what The Sims does, where in The Sims it's like, oh, you used to have weather in The Sims. Well, guess what? For The Sims 4, that's a DLC you have to purchase separately now, even though that was base game.
That's crazy.
And yeah,
it's wild that works on people.
It worked. I mean, I hate to say it worked on me, but like I did buy the DLC for The Sims 4. Although I've stopped purchasing DLC for The Sims 4 because I'm just like, there's competitors on the horizon, and I'm fucking tired of how shitty the game is.
They can't keep getting away with it.
They can't, and I've officially like put my foot down unless The Sims 4 comes out with something like monumental and like truly game changing. I'm just like not gonna give them any more money for Sims 4. Like if Sims 5 is announced and comes out and it's like, oh wow, it's not fucked, you know, I'll reconsider my position. But in the meantime, Paralives is on the horizon. It's not like it's on the distant horizon. Life by You is on a somewhat closer horizon. Like, okay, and I think I've complained about this on the show before too, but in Sims 4,
yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah,
what we're talking about.
In Sims 4, when the game first came out, and I bought the game like pretty much on release, like if I remember correctly, like I bought that game, I think the month it came out, and I was very hyped because I'm a big Sims fan.
You are?
And, oh, who could have guessed? But when I first purchased the game, how it worked in like Sims 2 and especially in Sims 3, because Sims 3 kind of had that open world dynamic, is that your sim would like go about their life, but then you had other Sims in the neighborhood and the surrounding towns, etc., who they would live their lives too, and they would like get married and they would have kids, and like their lives would like progress without you having to have a hand in it, you know? Like things would change for other families. And you could turn that on or off. Like you could turn off aging for Sims that you weren't playing as, so that like if you really just wanted to like focus on one family and like maybe hop around and like specifically play through different you know,
yeah, so if you could turn it off, on or off, there's no excuse for removing it.
Yeah, well, what's especially weird is Sims 3 was like even more hardcore, because Sims 3 had the whole world, like, you know, neighborhood, quote unquote, or world or whatever, all as an open world happening at the same time. So like Sims would actively be doing these things, getting married, having kids and stuff like that, and you could like watch it if you wanted to, but they'd be doing this stuff. And then Sims 4 sort of retracted the scope, and I understand it, because Sims 3 was apparently like a huge performance mess because it was rendering an open world, rendering a whole bunch of people kind of living out their lives all at the same time. I get it. They scaled it back.
Simming about.
Yeah, simming about. So they kind of scaled that back, and I get that, because the open world isn't entirely necessary if you adjust the gameplay to sort of like match the needs. But on release in Sims 4, if you picked a family and you played that family, and you could have like aging again turned on for everybody else, you would play that family, and every other sim would grow up, live in the same house, never meet anybody, and then die alone if you never like played as those Sims or anything like that. Like that's just how it worked. Like the Sims, and the only way you could get them to like get married or like to have their lives have any sort of progression and change is you had to download actually a very robust and very well made mod that was pretty lightweight, and you had like a lot of options you could tweak. I would always like tweak my settings to kind of get what I felt was like realism without going overboard. And that was a thing. And then they finally added in, they call it neighborhood stories, where your Sims that you aren't playing as will get married, will move, will die, will do this, that. They added that in 2021. And The Sims 4 came out in 2014. So
that's insanity.
Yeah. And so it's just like
DLC, a paid DLC, or was it a?
It was a base game free update, thankfully.
Thank God. I was worried.
Yeah, I know.
wouldn't
Me
put it
too.
past them.
Me neither. But that, like, when that, and like also the functionality of this base game update, that like, you know, this neighborhood stories update was still way less, like it had less to it, it was way less balanced. Like people would just fucking like you would have like a neighbor die every other day. It was like so much less balanced than this mod that I downloaded.
Tough world out there for those Sims.
It really is.
You
They
know?
kept
People
freezing to
dying
death
every day.
Yeah. But like the mod did like, so this was an update to the game made by the company that made it, that was released like what 7 years after the game came out, and the mod did it infinitely better. And it's like, what are we doing here? Like what what this is fucked.
That's funny.
So
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. It's crazy. No real excuse for that.
there isn't. And then like every DLC that The Sims 4 comes out with is just like bugged beyond heck and doesn't work properly, and it takes like 3 updates for that to like even function properly, and the game's a mess anyways. I have a million, I could go on, but like it's kind of the Hey You Pikachu situation where like I was kind of happy at first, although it definitely felt hollow. And now just over time I'm kind of like my Sims are getting tucked to sleep, and I'm just like, I'm gonna fucking cut your neck, you fucking piece of shit, fuck you.
You put your Sims to sleep and you're like, I'm gonna turn this game off and I will never reopen it. And
That's right.
Your existence will end.
You will live forever in a stasis of a save file. Your I will never change. So yeah, that is my spiel about The Sims 4. Games are in a sorry state, to say the least.
If we're in a simulation, do you feel like our version of The Sims was given enough features, or is it a complete game?
So The Sims 4 has like mermaids and vampires, and as far as I've found, we don't have any of that. There's like there's lore about it, but there's no. Looking. Yeah, I've been looking. There's none of that though, so you know.
Sims 4 wins.
I think Sims 4 is more feature complete.
The only thing is, I do know how to get out of a pool, even if there's no ladder.
This is true, me too. I've tested it.
So, Brandon won Sim 0.
So true. Rest in peace, thousands and thousands and thousands of Sims.
You're gonna have to try harder than that if you want to kill me, God. I know how to get out of a pool.
Don't tempt him.
And he's been trying because, you know, there's been a time or two I'm in a pool, I turn around and the ladder just is vanished. It just went away while I was in there.
Somebody sold it.
He's got it out for me, but...
Well...
You know, I've been locked in a bathroom.
Every time I witness somebody dying, I don't get to plead with the Grim Reaper to, like, bring them back. It just doesn't work that way sometimes. But
have you smeared by a bus tomorrow after saying all that?
I know, right? I was gonna say don't tempt the fates. Have you played any games? I know Cyberpunk just came out with updates that finally make that a complete game.
Yes. Relatively speaking, it's a pretty good game now. You know, overall.
Yeah.
Were you asking if I've been playing anything?
Well, just do you have any games that you kind of feel similar where like they came out unfinished?
Oh my god, a million. I mean, I think everything that comes out now, like it gets like the reviews like celebrate the fact if it's ever a finished game, which is a weird thing to like. That shouldn't be the normal. Whether you're like, wow, and it's good to go right on release.
Wow.
Round of applause, game of the year, I think. Honestly, holy shit. They said it couldn't be done.
It definitely feels like it's this year specifically. Like I know it's like a wider industry trend, but like when Doom Eternal came out, like that game, I played through that game like the week it came out, and it worked just fine. Doom Eternal came out perfectly fine.
There's some, you know, there's a lot of games that maybe it's not fair to say like it happens so commonly, but it is. It does. Common. I don't know.
It happens so commonly.
It's been a great year for games.
Yeah.
It's been one of the best years for video games ever, I think.
I agree. So it's weird. It's weird to like.
It's a weird thing it's weird that that's a commonplace thing. It should be a freak occurrence. Like, the studio should do that and be like remembered for it. It shouldn't be like 6 out of 10 games are released unfinished.
Yeah, like Baldur's Gate 3 got so much hype in part because it was like finished when it came out.
Yeah. And they also just like did so much more than they had to. It's like a really like fleshed out game, and they're releasing these giant patches. They've the game's been out, I don't know, not that long really in the grand scheme of things, and it's already received like 4 giant like
Wow.
quality of life patches and game updates and things like that. They're like listening to their community, putting things in the game that people are asking for. Just like
Nice.
even just like fun things. Like one streamer was like joking around that you can get a dog that will hang out at your camp, and one streamer was joking around they were trying to throw a severed head they had collected for the dog because he'll fetch a ball, and they added it to the game just because they're like, yeah, that's a good idea.
Nice.
It's just like fun stuff like that. Like they're actively trying to make their already amazing game better.
That's awesome.
And it's free. It's all free. I mean, once you buy the game, of course.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I mean, I'm really glad to hear, and so it's nice that studio has like been so successful with that game this year. It's one of those few like success stories where you're like, oh yeah, these guys, they deserve it and more still. But it's good to see that they've been so like critically praised. You know, the company's been so lauded, and that the game has like been received so well. Like there are so many people who have like bought that game who just would never play that type of game normally, and it's nice to see.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, it's nice to see them rewarded for like nailing it. So,
yeah,
like so much so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited to play it with you at some point.
Yeah, I am
Me and
too.
Austin still have to. We've been playing it, but we're like our schedules are so different that we are still in like. I think we're at the end of Act 1. So
oh my god,
we have barely made our way through.
We barely scratched the surface.
So good.
To be fair, though,
I've debated just playing it on my own, but I'm like, it's so much more fun with other people, though. I think I want to wait.
Yeah,
it's gonna be worth it.
To be fair, though, I don't think Austin has the same schedule as anybody, because Austin just goes missing for months on end, and then he'll be like back and be like, hey, you guys want to watch a movie? And it's like, where you been?
Kudos to him to be able to go missing. Like that's kind of a nice option to have.
I guess it's like
it's pretty cool that he's able to just be like, all right, I'm gonna go. And I mean, he could say, hey, I'm going somewhere or whatever, but I'm just saying like the ability to like take time off work or work remotely and go do stuff, explore around. Sounds fun.
Yeah, he's I think a lot of times he goes missing, it's because he's like balls deep in a project, so he's just working and he doesn't want to like deal with it. But it'd be nice if he said hi once in a while is all. Like,
I know. What a jerk.
I know.
What a mean jerk.
What a meanie. But you know, he pops in. It's nice to see him when I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, video
if I worked
games
remotely on big projects, I could see myself potentially having to like go away, because having all your friends and your video games on the same machine that you have to like pay your bills with, like I know we all do it some, but I'm just saying it's like his primary source of everything.
It's nice to be able to withdraw, and I completely understand the desire. But you know, we are his friend. I mean, I feel like we don't ask a whole lot. It would be nice to just like get a, hey, I'm gonna be gone for like the next month. Okay, see you, Austin. Have a good month. Hope you're alive.
He's your OG friend too, so I feel like it's more your opinion of that is more valid than mine too.
Yeah. But you know, I also understand. Like I want to complain, but I also simultaneously sympathize. So it's you know, I get it.
We were talking. Oh yeah, anything else that's being played at the moment, or for you? I guess you just finished.
8.
Condemned, and then you finished 8. Condemned Criminal Origins 1.
That's right.
And you finished
Condoms.
8, Resident Evil 8.
Condoms. Criminy oranges.
Criminy. So many oranges.
Look at all these oranges.
Let's see. I've been playing. What have I been playing? I kind of bounce around a lot. I like to just play whatever sounds fun, which unfortunately makes it take forever for me to finish a game, but I don't know. Sometimes my mood changes a lot for what I feel like playing.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm like of the mindset where like I only have the brain space for like one book at a time. I only have the brain space for like one TV show at a time, one video game at a time. So it's like when I sink my teeth into something and I'm like in it, like if it's except for like management games, like management sims are just like, you know, you can sort of almost head empty play them, you know. But
yeah.
So like, but like narrative experiences or games that are like more investments of sort of like mind and body.
Sure.
I have a harder time. So I've been still plugging away at Elden Ring. I'm gonna finish it by the end of the year, I want to say. I'd
say so.
I'm like, I've hit the point where like I've explored like every part of the map that I've got unlocked right now is pretty much fully explored. I've got like a boss fight in like 2 places that I need to just like go back and like actually like big dick the boss so that I can get that shit over with. Like I gotta kill Lord Moog, and like I don't gotta kill him. I just like I'm pretty sure I can just kill him if it's fun.
There's a lot of the game that is optional. So yeah, you can kind of pick and choose how much you want to do, but knowing you, you want to do all of it. I got to the point where I beat the whole game. I beat the optional, like, final bosses. And then I was, like, just scouring the map. Like, the game is so densely packed with, like, good shit to find and stuff to explore and dungeons and bosses that all I had to do, I wasn't even, like, looking up walkthroughs. I would just look at my map. Anytime there wasn't a point of grace for, like anytime there was an empty gap, I would go to that spot and I would find, like, a new dungeon. And so I was just clearing through the map that way. And then I was like, I actually should stop because if I replay this, some surprises would be fun. And I will replay this at some point. So that's when I stopped. And I didn't, like 100% it. But I did almost, I cleared that map pretty heavily.
Nice. Yeah, I went through Caelid. Caelid was what cause like this weekend I finished editing together Critter Cam 5. And I decided to reward myself by having a video game day. So I spent that time just clearing out Caelid, and like, yeah, I did the thing you did where if there's like a square area that is missing a site of grace, I go exploring, I go see what the hell's up with that, found like a couple of extra graces, killed that one dragon that's just like, you kill those 5 smaller dragons around it and those take its health down and then that kills the big dragon.
Oh, the big
I thought that was really cool. Yeah.
It felt wrong.
It did.
Because he was so big and he wasn't fighting back.
Yeah, he was. Well, he was kind of fighting back. Like he was sending his minions after you, but he was. I mean, you know.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Who can blame him? But I was going around all of Caelid, and like, I did clear out. I want to say that Caelid is cleared out. Like it's good. I got it. My biggest complaint about Souls games is like I never know if I've completed a quest or not, and like you usually know that you've completed like an NPC's quest by they die, or you have to kill them. But you know, it's hard to like tell what is the next step in a lot of those quests. But I did clear out most of Caelid. I kind of like progressed in like a quest that I forgot existed. But Caelid's cleared out except for, and I don't think this is in Caelid, but when I was clearing out Caelid, and another way I cleared out Caelid was like if there was a site of grace that was missing for like a large swath of land, I go there, I explore, oh, here's a site of grace, or that looks like a picture of a castle on the map, I'm gonna go there, and then in most cases it was in fact a castle I could explore and like would then get like a little icon on the map. And in doing all of that, I got the other half of the disc for the Grand Lift of Dectus. And so now I'm like, I don't know what's down
there.
Yeah, I don't know what that lift. I don't know what that lift is, but I'm about to go on it. And I'm sure that's like just gonna be another fucking rabbit hole that's gonna take me a whole day to deal with.
Oh, it is.
Oh boy.
if not more.
Oh great.
One of those. No spoilers, but one of I don't remember which, but one of those like lifts takes you to the like that optional,
the big
very
buff?
hard boss.
Okay.
And that boss is like the hardest one in the game, I believe. Right. And the area surrounding is difficult, and it's like its whole thing. Like I did that after I beat the game.
In the words of Professor Oak, Wonderful.
Nice photo.
Nice. You were close.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right.
But
that takes me back to like this time of year last year. You were jamming out the Pokemon Snap
I sure was.
at my house.
I mean, look, I am a completionist, and I cannot fight that
You
urge.
are. That you are, and I have some great photos to show for it now.
You sure do, and I got you several progressions. Once I figured out that stages had different stages to them, there's stages to these stages. I was like, oh shit.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, so I got the Grand Lift of Dectus to do. Once I figure out what the hell's going on with Grand Lift of Dectus, I've got like one area in like Liurnia of Lakes that I want to make sure I fully explored. But then I'm up in that area by the fucking. Well, I gotta take care of Lord Moog, and I got this guy on top of this mountain to kill. But then I got the Grand Lift of Dectus. I finally got all of the belfries. I opened up all 4 of the belfries. Or I guess it's really just 3 belfries, and the 4th one is a key you get to open one of the belfries. But, you know, I'm like, there's a checklist in my mind, and, like, I've whittled it down, little by little.
I'm excited for you to finish it. Also, you know, in the distant future, once you're ready to play it again, I want to do the mod where we can multiplayer it. I know it has multiplayer normally, but every time
the
you
mod
die,
makes it a lot easier.
You have to reconnect to each other, and this would just streamline it. I don't know. I'm more down to do that.
No, for sure.
It's not that I'm like I like to play things vanilla, but I don't. If it saves me some time, like in menus and shit, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, like the multiplayer is fun the way they have it set up in Elden Ring, but it's not like it is an open world game. And the way that the multiplayer is set up is not conducive to playing with your friends. It's more conducive to like dropping in on randos.
Strangers, yeah.
And so I am totally okay with doing a mod that just makes life easier for that.
Cool. Glad to hear it. I just like I'll even do some grindy shit, whatever, sometimes if it's fun. I just don't like when my time is being spent in menus. That just like that kills my fun immediately. It makes me want to turn it off.
Absolutely. So yeah.
I say after just playing like 80 hours of Starfield, which is 50% menus.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I can't say I haven't played Starfield, but
I enjoyed it, but there's a lot of menus.
I'm not sure if I'm gonna play Starfield. I probably will dip a toe into it, but I don't think I'll spend money to play it.
If you ever get a Games Pass again, you can play it.
Yeah.
It's also, if you liked like the last Fallout, it feels very similar to that, but just with a bunch of new mechanics and space and a different like I don't know, theme.
Yeah.
Like it's a very different feeling. But yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it a lot. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, me saying kind of like shitting on it a little bit. That's after I played like many hours of it. So
like
I got my fill for sure, and I'll probably go back when like DLC comes out.
I didn't hate the most recent. Like I liked Fallout 4, but and I say this about a lot of games, and I don't know what. I don't have like a specific rubric for like what classifies a game as this and what classifies a game as not this, but like Fallout 4 felt hollow to me. Like there's a lot to do.
This one, Starfield, feels a little hollow too.
Yeah, and like when I play Elden Ring, like, and I feel like I want to say like when I play a game that's hollow, I almost feel like I'm outgrowing video games. But then I play a game like Elden Ring, and Elden Ring does not feel hollow. Elden Ring feels the opposite of hollow, and I'm like, which is ironic considering Dark Souls, everyone's a hollow. But anyways, but I don't know what changes.
I have a theory.
What's that?
I don't think it's you outgrowing video games. I think it's games that aren't updating with the times. So like Bethesda is making this. Yes, their technology is more. There's more mechanics, but when it comes to like certain things that make the game feel alive, that is happening in every other game out today or AAA title, they're still making the game they made 20 years ago, and they're not really building on that. So it feels old. It feels like old technology.
Yeah, and like when I play Fallout 3, that game doesn't feel hollow, and that's an older game.
Oh, okay.
Than Fallout, like, because I think it's something about the design. Maybe that's like maybe Fallout 3 just didn't feel hollow when it first came out, and now I have that sort of memory attached to it, and maybe that's sort of coloring my perception of it. I think that's very possible.
Maybe, I don't know.
But like, there's something about it, and like New Vegas didn't even feel hollow. New Vegas felt, and like I wasn't
New
even
Vegas
like
is great, but I think the narratives in New Vegas are way better. Like
yeah.
A different studio made that game.
Yeah,
and it shows a little bit.
And those guys ended up making Outer Worlds, which Outer Worlds was a weird case. Outer Worlds felt half full, you know? It felt
Yeah, I agree.
Like when I like and for people who are kind of like not fully on board with me calling things hollow, like I guess a better word is like when something is not hollow, it's substantive, I guess might be a good word for it. I don't know. Okay. Outer Worlds felt less hollow than Fallout 4 did, but it's a much smaller scale, and it still didn't feel 100%, you know, but it was more.
I felt like Outer Worlds put a lot more work into the RPG elements and the narrative, but the fact that they were so closely following like that Bethesda style while keeping it linear made it kind of feel half complete. And also like even like the gear you find, it was like I feel like a limited amount of stuff you could find, so it just felt like a light version of those games, but then the RPG elements were like an improvement, I think.
I actually, so like, you know, you mentioned how it's not as open world as but I actually liked how scaled down it was, because it did. So I guess, so like when you explore an Elden Ring's a big open world, but no matter what cranny you go to, you will find something, you know, and it's never gonna be like you found. Yeah, they did an amazing job with that open world. Every game that has an open world should absolutely take inspiration from how the fuck Elden Ring did it. Like, okay,
play like an open world game that just like fills every nook and cranny with something to find, like, and the world feels alive, and you're like stumbling upon things that feel like, I know they're not, but like I feel like that would have happened even if I hadn't walked up on it in that spot. Like that's the shit I love. I eat that up. Witcher 3 did a good job of that. Red Dead, the newest one, was amazing in that way. You're just stumbling on like whole narratives that if you walked a different way, you would never even have probably seen it. It's so cool. Yeah.
And like, so like, and there's like a difference to finding things. Like there's a metric for what you find in those like nooks and crannies too. Like for instance, in say like Fallout 4, you do a little bit of extra searching, you find like this little nook and cranny. Maybe they did pay attention, maybe they did put something there, but what they put there is like a crate that's got like a spoon that you can sell in it, you know? Whereas in Elden Ring, you'll go there and there'll be like a cool enemy or like an item maybe, but like it's a unique item to that spot or something like that. Like it feels like it feels less copied and pasted, and I think that
they put. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I think that copy paste feeling is a large part of contributing to that hollowness. Like if it feels like you could just like slap down this shit in your like level editor in like 2 minutes, it feels less substantial, you know.
If the thing you're stumbling upon came from a library or if it was handmade for that spot, makes a big difference.
Yeah. Or even if it wasn't even like handmade for that spot, but if it's just like if it's still like, you'll find a lot of things in Elden Ring that are repeats of other sections, but maybe they like tweak one thing. Like maybe this statue is doing this weird thing. Maybe this statue fell over or something. I don't know. There's just ways that they approach the design of their open world where like even if things are like, you know, somewhat copied and pasted, they do enough to kind of shake it up to make it feel different. and that's important.
Yeah.
Whereas like there's no fanfare in a lot of the things you'll find. And that's one thing I enjoyed about Outer Worlds was that it's a very scaled back experience, but because it's scaled back, it means that what's there is has a little bit more care put into it. So like the writing, I think in Outer Worlds was a lot better than pretty much any Bethesda game.
Yeah.
And that accounts for something, I think.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense to me. I think Bethesda is like falling behind.
Yeah,
and, you know, maybe that's a consequence of building giant
stretches of
constantly.
Yeah, maybe. Although they had like they had 10 years to put together Starfield, and sure, like in Starfield they're like, oh, you want one Skyrim? We built like 80 Skyrims, and it's like, okay, man, but.
Yeah, no, give us one good Skyrim instead.
Yeah, give
of
us a good Skyrim.
Like shallower ones.
Yeah, and why does
this comes from a guy that liked Starfield. It does feel hollow. Skyrim, I mean, I jumped in to the Bethesda world with Oblivion, I think, and played everything. I really love the Fallout series. Really love I think Skyrim really just like, I don't know. I think they nailed it the most of just like like that same thing we're talking about, where it's like the world feels filled with unique experiences and things to stumble upon, and it drives you to explore because you're like, ooh, last time I decided to check out what was down this dark alleyway or in this cave, I had like the best experience I've had in the game. So I want more. I'm gonna keep looking. I want to, you know, you're an explorer and you want to explore. Yeah,
and you'll generally find like in Oblivion, I think they especially nailed this. I feel like there was less of this in Skyrim, but Skyrim was also more. So, but like in Oblivion, you'll go in like a random cave, and as you go through that cave, like props and like the way things are arranged and like maybe books you find around will tell a story about what happened in that cave. And like in Oblivion, almost, I would say a good amount of the caves have that sort of environmental storytelling to it. And Skyrim has a lot of that too, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Skyrim doesn't. I feel like Oblivion, I felt like the ratio was tipped more in the one direction. But, you know, what you're saying though, like, you know, going to a cave is still a fun experience, and you'll generally find something new in those caves, and like it won't feel like, oh, this is cave number 887. Let's check this one off. Like, it doesn't feel like a checklist. And a lot of games, I think, approach the open world with like a checklist mentality to it instead of a true exploration mentality to it, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's fair. There's also this thing, I mean, granted, it's only... Starfield has a lot of handmade stuff, like, you know, in a lot of spots. But then to make the world feel bigger, there's planets with like proc gen stuff.
Yeah, and it's like rocks.
But I have no real desire to explore those too much, because after you've been to a few of them, you've seen most of what you're gonna see. Like it'll be like you land on a planet and maybe you'll find an abandoned mine, or you'll find a bandit thing, or some ships land and you can like trade with them or fight them or rob them, but after you've done that like 20 times, you've seen the 20 different things you're going to see in different ways, and like every planet, and they're kind of pasted. Yeah, you know, it's like the planet reaches into a bag and has this many things it can pull out, and after you've seen them all. Yeah, I've heard that about Starfield, I'm sure. But the main game and the main like planets and environments are like, you know, pretty well made. There's some cool stuff.
Yeah, those have more of a human hand to them.
It's when you get into the just like, which I guess if you're gonna do the weird like repeated proc gen stuff, that's not a bad way to do it. To be like, here's all the handmade stuff we made, and if you want to just keep playing, like you know, more dungeons, just endless dungeons, you can. Yeah. You can play infinite dungeons. It's just after you complete all the handcrafted stuff, you're going to get into our kind of like gameplay loop thing.
Yeah, which is fair. I mean, I think it's fine. I think it's about the ratios. Once again, it's like how many of those side dungeons do you have that are like just copy paste?
Right.
And I also I did see like a comparison between so it was a video where it's like it's Starfield versus Cyberpunk 2077, and it's like a mission you do. It's a mission you do where you sort of are like sort of facilitating some sort of trade, I guess, between two parties. And in Starfield, the trade is like you go into this very like what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of corporate, clean, sterile. Thank you. That's the exact word I was looking for. Like club or whatever, and then you go in a back room, and the characters are like, "Hello, follow me," and then they do the canned walking animation to the back.
Everything's squared up, like you're like watching like a weird like Wes Anderson movie or something. Everything's just like symmetrical in a weird way.
Yeah, it's like you feel the roboticness of everything, and like the guy in the video, the guys like sit down, and there's a briefcase, and they're sitting in like a chair like 5 feet across, like COVID protocols are still in place, and they're like, open the briefcase, and the briefcase like opens, and no one actually looks in the briefcase, and like, so here are the things, well, let's see if we could make this deal happen, and then like it's just like them talking for like 5 minutes and nothing happens. And then they cut to like the same sort of like transaction happening in Cyberpunk 2077, where like you have a briefcase, you're giving it to some stuff, and the guys are like actually opening the briefcase, looking around. There's like creatures crawling around and like dudes who are like interacting with you. And then like a guy like gets angry and sticks a gun in your fucking face, and like you have to like just talk your way out. And it's like it's so much more engaging. It's so much better.
Cyberpunk, the way their release was criminal, and I put that on the board or whatever. The fact
publishers,
that they could legit, like sell it to people on a console that couldn't even play it, and then they like roll it back, like that kind of shit is like unbelievable. But
yeah,
the game now, it's still like a little clunky in some ways, but just like if you say like ignore all the mechanics and like the bugs and stuff like that, like the worlds and the environments, holy crap, like I've never seen a city in a game look so alive like that game. It's the most impressive example I've seen of like a city environment, or like you go in a room and it looks like messy and there's like trash on the floor and like
it looks lived in
shit, and it looks so good. I've just never seen anything like it, really, honestly. Like, so that part they nailed, regardless of all the other shit.
And I do get the genuine sense that for the Cyberpunk developers, like the game that we probably have nowadays is probably the game they wanted to have on release. You know, it's just a matter of like time and budget and all that stuff, and you know, publishers get in the way of that. And I do think genuinely, you know, I'm sure there's lazy game devs out there who don't do their fucking job and come into work for a paycheck and they don't give a shit about the actual like release. But I guarantee you, I'm sure that like the majority of people who like work on these games genuinely want to put out like the product that they're promising, and like
totally.
So it's just unfortunate that it had to work out that way, and I'm glad that Cyberpunk has sort of, because it's improved so much, and that it's like managed to sort of like win back, like because they did it with such a huge release. I'm glad that like the people who made Cyberpunk have sort of had the chance to correct it, because I think everyone's aware now that Cyberpunk is better now. Like I think if you pay attention to games enough, like it's not like one of those situations where like you know, you still probably meet people who think No Man's Sky still sucks, even though that No Man's Sky has been like adding content after content for like
it still years and years. But it's still pretty fun.
It's still pretty. It's fun, but I think No Man's Sky kind of feels hollow, and you know, there's a lot of games that sort of have that wide as a ocean, deep as a puddle sort of thing, and that contributes to that sort of lack of that hollowness feeling. But
what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so it's funny Cyberpunk just got like its big update right as like Starfield came out, like just after. And so after I beat Starfield, I popped back in to play it a little bit. I haven't really dug in too much yet, just a little. But going from that game to that game, just the contrast was just like, oh shit. And like I just got done very much enjoying Starfield, but then I like seeing it side by side, I'm like, oh my god. Like
the comparison.
It's shocking, like It's
like Mike Tyson fighting a baby.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's a perfect analogy, Ian. Good job.
Good job, Ian.
Thanks. Yeah, so it's interesting. It's just an interesting phenomena. And I think another issue with Starfield is that I'm pretty sure Skyrim was built on an updated version of the so like the creation engine is the engine they've been using since quote unquote Morrowind, but the leap from Morrowind to Oblivion was very different, and I think Oblivion is like a different version of the creation engine, but and I could be completely wrong about this, so I'm gonna look like a fucking idiot when people watch this, but
No.
I'm pretty sure from Oblivion to Skyrim, it's like the same engine, but they just like, sort of added some extra tech to it to like make it feel a bit more modern, but like it's still sort of built on the same engine as Oblivion. And as far as I understand, Starfield is maybe built, so like Fallout 4 is built on the same engine as Skyrim, but it's like again, it's an updated version of it, but then Starfield is also built on the same engine as that. So it's like, if I'm correct about this, like Starfield is essentially built on the same game engine as Oblivion, just with some extra tweaks to it, because you didn't have spaceships that you could like fly and like
I think they finally have a new engine.
I'd have to confirm that or deny
not?
this. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know, but if they have a new engine, they need another new engine.
Yeah, I think
because that's the biggest thing that makes it feel. It just feels old.
Yeah,
as shit.
It's tech debt, is what they call it. Is like, and not the thing not the skateboards you flip your fucking figures. Well, but like tech, and that's the reason that like Sims 4, every fucking expansion pack that comes out for Sims 4 is like a mess. It's like there's so much tech debt, is because like Sims 4 is released base game with like barely a game basically, and then like they keep adding these expansions to it, but like the expansions are just you're adding. It's like you build this very narrow base, and then you're stacking these blocks on top of this like narrow base with like very little accounting for like what, like for like you don't modify the base at all, and I think that's a little bit of what's happening here with Sims, and
they're adding more and more
Starfield.
to a rickety boat.
Exactly. And so I think that's maybe contributing a lot to these sort of issues, is like the tech debt that's sort of associated with these, because like in Skyrim, like Oblivion and Skyrim, like can't even climb up ladders. At least in Skyrim, they added ladders, quote unquote. But what it is you press E on a ladder, and it basically teleports you to the top of the ladder, with a little maybe fade out, fade in.
There's ladders in Starfield. They finally did it.
Hey, they did it. It only took them.
It's funny that the game came out and that was legit a thing that people were like, "Whoa, guys, we can climb ladders!" And it's like,
dude,
don't be like proud of them. Like,
yeah.
They don't get a pat on the back for not having done it sooner.
Yeah. So all that tech debt is, I think, a big reason why a lot of those games are maybe feeling so fucky.
Could be.
That's what I have to say about that. I don't know if I have much more to say about Starfield. A game I have not played. Yeah, I think we had a pretty. I think if people ever wanted to come into this conversation and feel fully informed, I think they would say these guys, they covered every base. This is like bases are loaded in baseball because the bases are covered.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right. Honestly, I do think so. Yeah.
Wow. Wow and whoa. But yeah. You know what game doesn't have fucking tech debt is Resident Evil 7 and 8.
Yeah, man, they've been killing it.
My God, they've been crushing it.
It's just like whoever they like, they obviously sat down and had a meeting before 7. They're like, we got to do something here because no one cares about this franchise anymore.
Yeah.
And then they did that thing. Whoever like took control of the ship and made the calls that got them where they are now, they've just been nailing it repeatedly. It's like they're almost doing too good. They're gonna fuck up soon.
I know, right? I'm like,
they've been nailing it.
I'm waiting for the crushing blow of disappointment when they fuck up.
Yeah.
But like, and I think what's interesting too is like so like 6 was shit, I suppose it was shit. I can't really honestly speak from experience. I never played 6. Yeah, I'll watch that stream. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, good.
But like, you know, 6 essentially killed the game, but also 6, it wasn't just 6 that killed the game, but like they were doing this thing where they would release, like there was a period of time where you would see like 3 Resident Evil games released in a year, and like they were all like bad to mediocre, like, and that's not going to do your franchise. So like, whenever I'd see a new Resident Evil game was out, I'd be like, oh boy, here they go, like fucking pumping out another fucking Resident Evil. And so what's interesting is like they took some time off it, I think, and then they made a whole new engine, and it's like it feels like it should be called out anytime people make a game that's like on their own engine and it's not made on like the Unreal Engine or like in Unity, you know. Wow, hey Zone Dog, this is 3 babies now. Hey, 3 baby. I don't know what that means. What about 3 babies? Oh, the baby. Oh, because of the amount of months he's been subscribed for, it's technically 3.
Oh.
3.
He's created 3
baby
children.
terms. Yeah. But yeah, I think it should be like, it's almost impressive, or no, it is impressive when like companies or game developers make a game using their own proprietary engine. And I don't know if it's necessarily like important that happens, but and it doesn't always work. Like for instance, that game New World, part of the reason it struggled so much is they were trying to use their own proprietary engine called something weird, and like that was causing a bunch of issues according to like developers and stuff like that. But like Resident Evil 7 and every Resident Evil game that's like come out since 7 has been built on the RE engine or whatever they call it. It's like the RE Universe engine or whatever the fuck they call it.
Right.
And that engine is apparently very good because every game that's come out on that engine has been pretty fucking solid.
They all look great.
Yeah, like yeah, when Resident Evil 7 came out, I was like, how much further can graphics get? Like, the 7 blew my mind how good it looked. I like did not know that games could look so good.
Game, because you get immersed, and then you get more scared.
And so, you know, the fact that not only did they like come back from the dead, but they did it using their own proprietary engine that's very good and seems to function very well and looks phenomenal. I think it says a lot. I think it's something that people should know about. I don't know.
Yeah, if you look at their schedule thing, it was like, okay, so they came out with 4. That one killed. Deadly Silence, I know nothing about that. Umbrella Chronicles, I know nothing about that. And those came out like year after year, like one after the next. Yeah. 2008, they didn't come out with a game. In 2009, there was 5 and the Dark Side Chronicles, which these honestly might be some. Some
of them are probably mobile.
DLCs.
Some of them are probably like portable like things. Okay,
so Deadly Silence is I think it's a remake of the original. Then Umbrella Chronicles was a rail shooter for Wii.
Okay.
Which actually sounds fun. Resident Evil 5 came out. Then it was Dark Side Chronicles, which is another light shooter for Wii.
Okay.
A rail. Then they did the Mercenaries 3D. I don't know, a 3DS game. And then they did Revelations.
Revelations were interesting because I remember they came out with like 3 or 4 Revelations games, or 2 or 3, and those were kind of like
2.
Those were like harkening back, I think, to the original format of game, and I think at least one of them it has been well received. I'm not sure. I could be wrong.
Gotcha. And then they did Operation Raccoon City, just squad shooter.
Yeah, that one I remember not doing so hot. I'm pretty sure.
And 6 came out, and people didn't like that.
Yeah.
And then they didn't do anything for 2 years. So like, you know, they have to sit on for putting stuff out rapid fire, and then like their last release being one that wasn't popular, and then it's nothing for 2 years. And then there's Revelations 2. Once again, I don't know if they're good or not. And then Umbrella Corps, which is another, I think, like squad shooter.
Yeah.
And then finally 7. All those like releases that were like, they were going on to like DS and stuff. Like there were no main console games mostly.
Yeah.
And then and they were constantly like re-putting out the originals, but like not updating them at all.
Yeah.
I think, if I remember correctly. I just remember like, now you can get Resident Evil 1 on your PlayStation 3 or your Game Boy or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that just kind of like whittled down their reputation a little bit. So they were just like, kind of reminded me of the era of Disney. Like, okay, you look at Disney now and you're like, holy shit, they're going to take over everything. Eventually movies are going to be called Disney's, but it reminds me of that era of Disney where it just like nothing was happening and they were putting out straight to VHS movies. Like Cinderella 3.
2.
Yeah, and you're like, what the fuck? And no one has seen these movies mostly.
Yeah.
Still, even with all these like Disney freaks out there.
I know there's a couple
Still
people who really
haven't
watch the Tinkerbell sequels. I know.
Some of the
couple
sequels
folks.
are okay. I'm not saying they're inherently all bad, and I'm sure there's a lot of good animation in some of them. But like, it's just like, it's like shovelware for Disney movies.
Yeah.
They were just like putting it out straight to, and I don't know what they were going through at that time, but now they're
going through something
more
else.
money than. Yeah, now they could probably buy some countries if they wanted to. That'd be the thing they'll own after they own all like production studios.
But they're kind of in a weird spot now too, because like Disney had like basically 3 flagship things that they were like making buku bucks off of. They had Marvel, they had the Disney properties that like were their movies, and then they had Star Wars. And like all at the same time, like Marvel movies were huge, the Star Wars movies were huge, and then like the Disney movies were whatever. That was sort of,
I think they own Fox too.
They do own Fox. I mean, right. they bought Fox somewhat recently, I want to say.
I thought it was around a lot of those other acquisitions, but I could be wrong.
I think it was like 5 years after Marvel, and Marvel was like, I want to say they bought Marvel in 2010. I don't know the exact timeline of all these, but there was a little bit of a gap between buying Marvel and buying Fox. I want to say buying Fox was closer to pandemic, but I can't be certain. But so like, they were making buku bucks off of Marvel, Star Wars, Fox, and I'm sure Fox is still making them a bunch of money, but like Marvel movies have been, I'm not sure how they're doing. Like I anyone who I talk to is like emotionally done with Marvel and is not interested anymore. And same with Star Wars. Like I don't know anyone who's fucking into Star Wars anymore. That doesn't mean that people aren't still buying Disney Plus subscriptions though. So who knows? It's kind of a harder metric to
they're
gauge.
still printing money, but they're still printing money, and I still think the average consumer is probably eating that stuff up. But they've definitely are like kind of like smothered like the energy behind some of their biggest franchises. But I think they made billions of dollars in the process of doing that. So it's kind of like it's kind of like when a company like runs themselves into the ground to make a shit ton of money. I don't think Disney's running themselves into the ground, but the franchises, they're kind of playing them out.
Yeah,
but they're making endless money to do it. I don't know. That's kind of how it seems. Like I don't think, even if somebody was like, "Hey, the interest in Star Wars has gone down. Should we slow down?" They're gonna be like, "Fuck no! Like who cares?
Yeah,
who cares?"
I don't think they're in trouble.
If they stop being interested, we'll stop making it for a minute, and then when we bring it back, we can be like, "Hey, new Star Wars," and everybody will lose their minds again. People are, they're dumb.
People are goldfish.
No, they're definitely not in trouble. They're making more money than they ever have right now.
Oh, okay. I think they made slightly less money this year. It's like they're still making like billions of dollars in profit, but I think it's just not as, because like I think COVID was a huge surge for a lot of businesses, especially ones that are creating like media. Sure. And so like since COVID, I think the numbers have gone down.
Gotcha. I guess I just meant in general, like with how many like things they're consuming and absorbing. They, even if their biggest franchises aren't they're becoming like an umbrella corporation. No pun intended.
Oh my gosh.
They own a million things underneath them.
Yeah, but I mean that doesn't necessarily mean, like, for instance, like Epic was kind of doing the same thing. Epic was buying everything, and now Epic and again, like, Epic's not losing money. Like, all these companies that are like doing these huge layoffs and things like that, they're not like losing money. They're all still making like billions of dollars, but it's like, where last year maybe they made $250 billion, now they're making like $240 billion this year, and they're like, oh shit, gotta lay like 100 people off. And like Epic was snatching companies up. Like Epic bought Bandcamp, and then this year they sold Bandcamp to somebody else, who then, you know, gutted Bandcamp. Rest in peace, Bandcamp. And I remember when Epic first bought Bandcamp, I was streaming. I remember this. I was streaming House Flipper, and I was talking to somebody in the chat. I know who it was, but I'm not going to call them out. But I was talking with them, and they were kind of like Epic fans, I would say. I don't want to call them a fanboy because that's a little derogatory, but they were Epic fans for sure. And I was like, why are they buying Bandcamp? I don't trust them. I don't trust corporations. What the fuck they doing? And the guy's like, they're not going to do anything with Bandcamp. And to be fair, technically he was right. They didn't, when they owned Bandcamp, they didn't do shit with Bandcamp, but then they sold it after, like, you know, the first sign of like, oh, we're not making as much money this year. And then Bandcamp got gutted and destroyed by the company they sold it to. So I was still kind of right. Like, they still fucked over Bandcamp in the long run. Or I guess more appropriately, Bandcamp fucked itself over by either going public or selling themselves to Epic. But
I like how many times you just said Bandcamp.
Yeah, Bandcamp. This episode brought to you by Tech Debt and Bandcamp. But yeah, I just remember having that conversation with somebody, being like, why are they buying Bandcamp? They're gonna fuck up Bandcamp. And they kind of did.
They did. Bummer.
Yeah.
Real quick, in the chat, Zone Dog says that Cloud is shooting something into the butt of the guy on the right. Yeah, that's how the parasite gets you in this version of Resident Evil.
That's how you get the T virus.
This is the draw bomb Resident Evil. A cloud flies into your butt and then you're a zombie.
The D virus. D for draw bomb.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, okay. You got the D.
You got that D. You got that good D. Yep. But yeah, I just remember having that conversation with somebody where I was like, I don't fucking trust Epic for buying Bandcamp. I go, fuck it. And they were like, no, sure. Epic is good. And I'm like, man, I don't know.
When you just consume companies, I don't know, they lose the ability to be them like creative in themselves. I think a lot of times they lose their like their creative edge and their like room to make their own decisions sometimes, and then they die a lot of times, or the company, you know, wants to change too much and kills what made them good to begin with.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's never a really
like
good thing.
Activision with Blizzard, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, and like, then you consider like the Embracer Group, which was a corporation that was buying up like video game property after video game property. Like, they owned, like when like Square Enix bought a whole bunch of like IP, and then Square Enix sold it off. It's like all these companies seem to be kind of going through this endless cycle of like, we got to buy everything, that way we can own everything. And then they do, and then like the next year they're like, oh fuck, we're not making as much money. Why? Is it because we bought everything and own like a bunch of stuff we're doing nothing with? Okay, sell it. So like Square Enix bought a bunch of stuff. They bought like Deus Ex, they bought Tomb Raider, they bought this and they bought that, and then they sold fucking Deus Ex and Tomb Raider to the Embracer Group, who was buying up this and that and the other. And then Embracer Group, like this year, sold those fucking properties to I don't know who, like a fucking garbage chute. And so it's like if you're wondering why you haven't gotten a new Deus Ex game and you haven't gotten like a new Tomb Raider game, it's because Square Enix sold them to a company that sold them to a company that's probably going to sell them to a company. It's just weird.
It'd be a bummer to see your studio like get like gobbled up like that, but at the same time, if I had something that like Disney wanted to buy from me for a shit ton of money, I'd be like, here, have it, enjoy. Yeah. I'm out. I'm fucking done. Goodbye.
Yeah.
I hope Brandon Co. work goes well, but I'm out of here. When Disney goes to buy Draw Bomb, I will hand them the keys, the big smile on my face.
With a big old smile. Yeah, like Like when fucking Activision Blizzard got sold to Microsoft, you know, everyone shits on Bobby Kotick for being a piece of shit, and he is. But, you know, that dude made off the winner. Like, he sold the company that was just released Diablo 4 in the state it is. And he made off with a bunch of money. And you know what? I don't blame him.
I think when you make a company, the dream is that somebody will buy it from you for a shit ton of money, right? Is that the goal? At the end game?
Usually. Well, I mean, you know, it depends on, like, for the most part, most people, yes. Like, most people are, like, making a company. Unless there's, like, they're, like, the company is, like, behind a project that, like, the person is, like, really, you know, they believe in or something like that. But for the most part, yeah,
sure.
if you...
I'm being a little cynical, but...
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm just saying, like, there's the rare case where, like, you know, you own Pied Piper and you could sell it to Gavin Belson for $10 million, and you don't because Peter Gregory buys it for $1 million, but you get to still run it and run the ship, you know.
Right.
But that's a TV show.
Oh, I thought that was based on true events.
It's kind of, if you think about it.
Oh.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's kind of a bummer. It's kind of a bummer that, and that's why I saw this article. Like, there was back at the beginning of pandemic, there was a lot of like talk about Discord being bought by Microsoft, and I'm actually still sure it's going to happen at some point. But I remember reading an article.
Somebody will buy it.
Somebody will buy it. And that's why I bought Nitros, because I was just like, I had money at the time. I don't anymore, but I had money at the time, and I was just like, maybe if I buy Nitro, I'll help keep Discord good for just a little bit longer. But there was some...
Developers are like, if we don't make $15 extra this month, I'm fucking bailing. I'm jumping ship. We're done. And then it went ching, and he saw your little payment, and he was like,
wow, thanks, right, Ian.
I'm gonna keep on.
Now we'll put Danny DeVito in a commercial.
Hey, if I could get a guarantee on that, I would donate to a lot more things.
Oh, for sure. But there was an article I read on, I want to say it was like Kotaku or some website like it, but it was like the title of the article is basically enjoy Discord now while it's still good. And I'm like, that, you know, it's sad, but it's very true.
It happens to everything in this kind of world.
Yeah.
Anything like, I don't know, it's just anything good will get consumed, I think.
Yeah, anything good will get bought and consumed, except for Valve, because Valve is still privately owned. Like, if you never hear people about, never hear about.
They're like, they're driving the ship. Like, they're making new things. Like, I don't know. It feels like they're the company that would eat another company versus the other way around.
100%. Like, first of all, like, they're not publicly traded, so you can't buy Valve even if you really wanted to. I like how you're putting yellow tape on that box. But so they're not publicly traded, so you can't buy Valve even if you had like all the money in the world, unless like Gabe Newell is like, okay. So like they like all these companies, like I'm not sure what goes into the methodology. Again, I'm sure it's because you want to sell the company and you want to make a bunch of money. But like, you don't have to become publicly traded as a company. Like, you can stay like a privately owned company if you're like successful, and like you don't have to like rely on shareholders, which Valve doesn't. Like, and like Valve
companies are owned by the workers.
Yeah, and like
that's
Valve,
always a cool thing.
Valve prints money. Like, they don't have to worry about that shit. But you know, there was like that leaked Microsoft document where they're like, hey, what if we bought Valve? What if we bought Nintendo? And it's like, well, I don't know about Nintendo. I don't know if Nintendo's publicly traded, but Valve is not. You cannot buy Valve, and you know what? Good.
Yeah. I don't think Nintendo is publicly traded.
I would be very surprised if they were publicly traded. Nintendo feels like the kind of company that like they very much enjoy their insularness. Same with Valve.
I know it's part of their like brand, but Nintendo seems very like kind of joyful about what they're making, and like they're like, I don't know, they seem genuinely like it seems a little different. I don't know.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like they're trying to, I mean, yes, they're trying to make money, no question. but
Oh,
it
yeah, for
doesn't
sure.
seem like it's like a shareholder driven thing. It seems more like a what would be fun to make now.
Yeah, like
That's part of their brand also. I understand that.
like there is that story.
Optics thing.
There is that story. I think it was Iwata, and I don't know his first name, but his last name is Iwata, and he's one of like I think it's him, but he's like one of the CEOs. But like Nintendo lost money one of its years, and instead of like firing its employees, he took a huge pay cut, and I'm just like, wow,
Yeah.
that's great.
I do got a point. It's true, but I do got a point real quick to Zone Dog, who makes a very good point. Because Nintendo is pretty damn rude about their IPs. They like
100%.
money. Yeah, no question.
Yeah, I wasn't
They
about
sue
to
the hell out
say.
of everybody.
I wasn't about to like say like, oh yeah, they seem really nice and fun. Like they still are a soulless
Yeah.
corporation to an extent. They still like basically put a guy in debt forever for the rest of his life because he sold modded like Wii's. But you know,
And who are these assholes still selling everything at full price like 10 years
Right?
after it came out? Like
Jesus Christ.
That's rude.
Yeah, like I'm not about to say like, oh, Nintendo's one of the good guys. Like, no, they're not. They're not. They're not. But
Nintendo's like the one company that like makes so many games I want to play that I just haven't played because I'm like, I'm not paying $60 for it.
yeah,
Like pretty much everything they put out except for like a thing here or there that like really is like something I'm super interested in. They've like almost everything they put out in like the last 2 or 3 years. I just haven't played it because I'm like, no, I'm not gonna spend that. What are you crazy? Are you nuts?
and it's unfortunate too. Like if you don't buy it in that like window, like you'll probably never get a chance to play it again. Like they closed the eShop, and like fucked over a bunch of downloads. They never port. Like you're never gonna get a Nintendo game on a non-Nintendo console. Like at least Horizon Forbidden West or whatever is on PC. You know, they still have their things that suck a lot. But
Yeah.
you know, at least the guy took a pay cut instead of firing a bunch of his employees, and at least Nintendo is probably not publicly traded, which you know means they can kind of like be their own boss.
Yeah.
They got two
What do you
good
feel about
marks.
this drawing?
I think it looks great.
I like it too. I'm done with it, I think.
I'm pretty done with it. Let me just do one
right on
thing.
time.
Yeah, I know, you're right. We're just about at the end of the show. I did notice like 50 minutes ago, like, ah, shit, we're at 9:10, or I guess I noticed 40
It's
minutes
okay.
ago. But, you know, I liked what we were
Not
making.
inherently a bad thing. I just like to not do that every episode.
Yeah. I'm just going to do one thing with this logo real quick. It feels like it could stand out just a little more.
Job evident evil.
I was just about to, like, do the voice, which actually I noticed, and this bummed me out, but they don't do that in 8. Like, when you click start, they don't go, Resident Evil 8.
Did 7 do that?
I don't know. I want to say they
I
did.
don't think so.
Maybe
I
not.
don't think so.
7 and 8 kind of have a
It's
whole
like-
different vibe from like the rest of the series,
They're
which I like.
Almost a spin-off in a way. But
Yeah.
I mean, I guess what isn't a spin-off? Like it's all just like cast of characters. They
Yeah.
all are canon, it seems like, to some extent, but
They're in like
and
this
doing their own
weird
thing.
quantum state. Like Resident Evil is a quantum series, and we've talked about this in private, but like Resident Evil is like a quantum series where like everything is simultaneously canon and not canon at the same time. Like they could drop a plot line at the moment that they get bored of it, and like the only thing that really makes the series, like what happens between each game is pretty much, it doesn't matter. Like it's all window dressing, and the only way there's actually a functional ongoing storyline is that you get like the same names that pop up over and over again, like Umbrella, BSAA, Wesker, Chris. Like the characters and the companies all are consistent throughout the game, but like what they're doing and like their status, are they defunct?
Yeah.
Are they running now? Are they missing? Are they dead? It's just in flux. Like you never know what you're gonna get until like the end of the like latest Resident Evil game, and then you're like, oh, this Resident Evil, Umbrella's the good guys. Like it doesn't matter. It's just
we
it's
haven't
a
really
loosely.
got any like info on what's like, because there hasn't really been new games. Like, there's been a lot of remakes, and then there's like 7 and 8, which are kind of like their own thing. Kind of hasn't been any updates on what's going on with like the baddies. Like, what are they doing? What are you guys doing over there?
Technically, Wesker got. I mean, I'm not gonna say. I don't want to spoil things, but you know, technically some things have like stuck, but they'll only stick for as long as until they get bored and they want to bring back like a character or something like that.
Yeah, they like to retcon some stuff, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with it.
I feel like that's the vibe, and I'm okay. There's something about like this. Once you've kind of created this thing that's like almost a institution at this point, the like it's kind of how I feel about like Fast and Furious. Like the retconning is all part of it. Like when that happens, I'm not like, oh, lame. The story was so good before that. I'm like, oh, that's fun because it's stupid.
Yeah, it's part of the charm of it after a certain point.
It's part of it. Yeah.
Once you let go of canon and like timelines, and you know what, I bet I would love to see somebody attempt. And like I heard the new Saw movie is very much the same way. And I've heard. I don't know if you watched the YMS video about the like Saw X, where it's just like him and everything is
not his newest ones.
Yeah, he has like this.
He's ranting about the whole franchise.
Yeah, I love that video. He has like a video that came out this week, I want to say, or maybe like just on the cusp of last week, where he's talking with I think the guy's called Everything Is Terrible, or something like that. But it's where they just saw X in theaters, and then they kind of have like an hour-long discussion about it, and the video is just them talking about it. And like the part of the joy of Saw for them is the goofiness and the fact that like the timeline makes no sense, and like they love that about it, and they just want it to get goofier while still taking itself very seriously. And we say the same thing about the Fast series is like we want the movies to keep getting goofier, but we also don't want them to ever wink at the camera about the goofiness, because that would ruin it.
Sorry if I did some weird stuff down there. I was expecting the shading.
It's okay. I can never manipulate these layers anyway, so I kind of have gotten used to like working with the thing, because it always just resets my permissions for God knows what reason.
Oh damn! I put that on layer 1 and 2, the little thing. So if you drew that orange shadow on here, let me create a layer about in between title and layer 1.
Okay.
And I'll title it this one.
And then you got to make it a multiply, and you got to put it at 50%.
You got it. Boom.
Also, Leviathan Den says, when's Draw Bomb After Dark gonna be? I don't know.
Yeah,
it's kind of just happens whenever we're feeling it, whenever we're in the mood.
I feel weird streaming 5 after Matt just streamed 5. But we always could stream that while we're playing it.
Yeah, I don't mind having a game or two between us that we just play.
Yeah. It is
between friends.
Yeah, hang out. But
just between us girls.
So just you know, we just need to have some time for girl talk. But we've been playing some Lethal Company on the stream. That's been fun.
That has been a lot of fun. We're planning on doing another Empty Head buffet tomorrow, and then actually I might do this on the Draw Bomb channel, I'm not sure. But, and you can totally join in on this if you want, but on Wednesday at noon, I am planning on talking with Lisa and getting started on a pitch packet for us to like start pitching to like the studios and stuff like that, so we can fucking, you know, have something happen with these videos.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'll see if I can. I do work Wednesday, and we usually have like a meeting then, but I'll see if I can be there. I want to be there for that.
Yeah, it's gonna be at noon, so I don't know if that's like early enough for you, or if you're gonna be, if that's like how soon you have to go into work or something like that. But
right, I leave a little bit after that, but
okay,
not too far after.
Gotcha. But yeah, so we're gonna be working on a pitch packet, in the hopes of, you know, sort of making some progress on that.
Awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, that should be exciting stuff.
Zone Dog says, I hear the new Saw movie sucks.
That's what she said. They made that joke so many times in the YMS thing. And yeah, I've heard it's not high cinema, but like for YMS, like he just loves how goofy and like violent the series is, and he like for him, throughout the video they called it a return to form, because like apparently Spiral and Jigsaw were just like trash, and then Saw X was sort of it was like a return to the like classic Saw formula, where if you love it, you love it. If you don't, you don't.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of missed the detail where you said whether he liked it or not, but that's cool. That is like a little bit more.
It's weird. They were so positive about it and they liked it, but he still rated it a 40%, or
Oh, gotcha.
which or no, he didn't. What did he rate it? He gave it a 4, I think is what it was, or something like that, which is like still not a great score, but like I think that was him trying to give an objective score about like the quality of the movie, and like kind of like, because like he's a fan, like he loves, like he and the guy who he talked with about it loved it in the sense that like they had a good time, they thought the traps were fun, they thought the story was laughable and funny and goofy and like stupid in a way that they enjoyed, but it's probably not like a good movie. So I think his score is like sort of the, like he was separating his personal appreciation for what he saw with the actual like what's the objective sort of quality. And like, you know, objective quality is not a real thing, you know, it's very much a subjective thing, but you know, you can sort of take your opinion and say, okay, like I like this, but I know the story is actually shitty. Like if I were to like rate the Fast and Furious series to somebody, I wouldn't rate them super high. I'd maybe rate them a 5 or a 6, but I would still be like, I fucking love these movies. They're like a 5, totally. You know?
There's movies I love that I would give it like a 2 or 3 out of 10. You know, it doesn't mean I think that's a, if you're rating the quality of a film, that's a different thing than like how much you enjoyed it, I think sometimes. Depends, you know, I guess it depends on what your like style of.
Yeah, it's very much a to your taste,
because it's all, you know, opinion based. But
yeah. Austin says, I still think the negative positive scale is the way. Like what you're like, I'm positive on this movie, I'm negative on this movie. Sounds like they found Socks to be a negative 60%. So that's like, yeah, it's a 4. It's a 4 out of 10. But or maybe it's like all the way in the negatives, like it's negative 60%. No, like when it's bad but you like it. I'm confused. I think your scale is even more confusing. I'm like,
yeah, I think ultimately like a thumbs up or a thumbs down is a decent way to do it, because everything's just opinion based. So but I mean, if you want to just, I think more detailed reviews are also good for people who want that. I don't know, who cares?
Yeah,
who cares what other people think?
It's all like, if you're a reviewer, it like, sure, you got to kind of like figure out. I think it takes a little bit of emotional intelligence to watch a movie that's like got a lot of bad about it and understand that you like it, but also separate that from your recommended, because that's what a review is a recommendation. And like, it's not like an objective analysis of like the quality of a film. It is still very much like you're sort of crafting a recommendation for somebody, but you know, I think it takes like emotional intelligence to be like, this movie's bad but I love it, whereas I think a lot of people are just like, I love this movie so it is good, instead of sort of understanding like the difference between the two. Like you can love a bad movie and you can hate a good movie, but like a good movie still has qualities to it that are maybe, I don't want to say objectively good, excuse me, but like are maybe more appreciated on a wider scale than maybe, or maybe unappreciated at a wider scale than, you know what I mean?
That's fair. Yeah, I also understand Austin's thing now. He's saying if you like a bad movie, you go into the negatives. So like a good, you know, you might be like, if like one of our Fast and Furious movies we loved, we might be like, that's a negative 100 or something.
But that's still confusing. So it's like,
yeah, you're just adding another like.
It's just more confusing. It doesn't answer anything. It's like, so you love a bad movie. So it's like it's a movie. So like a negative 100% is a movie that
what's
has
a 1 out of 10.
Well, yeah, what's a 0%? And then what's a negative 30?
A movie that's terrible but wasn't fun to watch is a 0%. I'm guessing.
How if a movie is negative 30, does that mean that like it's almost good but you like it, or like, because like the thing I like about the 0 to 10 scale is you can sort of gauge it. Like 5 is like you feel nothing. Anything above a 5 is it's good. Anything below a 5 is it's bad. And maybe, and you know, again, your personal preference, maybe your personal preference is where that scale lands. I think, you know, if I like a bad movie, and I know I like some bad movies, if I know it's bad, I might still rate it a 3, but be like, but I loved it. But like the 3 tells you it has like shitty qualities to it. You know?
Here's the thing that will help explain. I see why you're confused, but I can help explain it for Zone Dog. You see, there's also a y-axis to this, so it also goes up and down while it's going into the negatives and positives. So now you see, like, this really can explain it further. You need like a line graph to explain.
What you need is you need to open a Blender. You need to open a Blender file, and you take the default cube, and like however far on the x-axis is one measurement, however far it is on the y-axis is on the other argument, and then however close the cube is a third.
And then you have to roll a dice.
Yeah.
And that value plays into it. And then you have you release 2 chickens that have to fight to the death. And based on who wins that as well. It's a whole thing. But it works well.
I think we should use the chicken fight system. Like if the good chicken wins and survives, it's a good movie. If the bad chicken survives, it's a bad movie.
It's a bad movie, yeah. Do the chickens have to watch the movie first? Like, do you put their cages in front of the movie?
No, it's kind of like trial by combat. It's like, you know, we'll just find out if this guy's innocent or guilty. We didn't see the crime, but if the guy is innocent...
that was ever a thing. That's
wild.
Know.
Yeah.
If you're good at fighting, you can just... laws don't apply to you.
Or it's like, are you a witch? You drown? Or you don't drown and you are a witch, but... It's a terrible system of yeah. Boy, oh boy.
Zone Dog says the x-axis is the id and the y-axis is the ego.
Oh my god! I actually found so Austin likes to make id super ego jokes all the time. I actually did find a fucking comment. I was watching an Oni Plays video. I think they were playing Resident Evil or something like that, and the one of the comments I just happened to run into in the comment section was, Chris is, I think it was on Fear and Hunger, but it's like, Chris is the id, this guy's the ego, and this guy's the super ego, and I sent Austin a screenshot of it when I ran into that.
Funny.
It is funny.
Yeah. That's a funny thing.
That's a hilarious.
Brandon, do you have anything to plug?
My butt. No. Go check out Drawbomb on YouTube. We just put out Critter Cam episode 5. It's 13 minutes of very lazy animation with some improv to kind of back it up and some editing to make it seem slightly more interesting than it is. And then we also have the Empty Head Buffet series, which I think is our sort of crowning achievement on the channel, aside from maybe the movies that we made. But those are more handcrafted experiences that are meant to be fully entertaining all the way through. Go check out Drawbomb on YouTube. What am I saying? God, I can't ever compliment our shit.
I know, it hurts you.
It does.
It hurts you. And also you're like, I feel like you kneel at the altar of the algorithm too much. The fact that like something doesn't work on YouTube, you're like, well, it obviously was terrible then.
No, I think like I love what Critter Cam 5 is, and I think Critter Cam 4 might be my favorite still. And
yeah, I think 4 is my favorite.
I like what they are, but they are still easier content, if that makes sense. Like Empty Head Buffet is Empty Head Buffet is the Elden Ring, where it's handcrafted in every inch and nook and cranny.
Yes.
is done, and then Critter Cam and all the improv stuff is Starfield.
That's fair.
I forgot
both made millions of dollars, so
that's right. We're so rich. I forgot to.
I think I went by Disney.
Oh my god, you should, bro. Forgot to actually add the water inside the water gun.
Oh. Wow. Also, yeah. Tomorrow we're doing we're Empty Head.
Oh yeah, Speak of the Devil.
Night. So check that out. We just work on assembling our cartoons. If you want to see how how the sausage is made.
That's right.
And you'll just see us working on it. Apparently on Wednesday we'll be streaming at noon. I'll probably be there as well.
Oh, cool.
Which I think is an important thing to state, because I think I'm the reason.
You're the glue.
I bring in the crowds, you know. So
you're the glue that holds this thing together.
And yeah, we've been follow Ian's Twitch, follow this Twitch. We've been doing some more streaming than usual, I think. So
yeah, I the entire year I was like, when it's October, I'm gonna stream scary games, and then I completely forgot until I saw Matt streaming Resident Evil 7, and then I was like, I should probably fucking stream some scary games, or I'm gonna feel regretful, and I did. Not the regretful part. I streamed the game. I didn't feel regretful.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I was like, yeah. Oh man, don't beat yourself up.
Oh,
jeez. Let me save this. Anything else to add before we skedaddle?
I wanted to add rim light to the hands, but because the hands are so shiny, and I'm not gonna. It's dumb. Okay. But the hands are so shiny in the Resident Evil. I had considered adding rim lighting, or I guess Fresnel's is the proper term.
That's because, well, have you? I would say my hands are sweaty and shiny as well as I'm playing the game, so it only makes sense.
My hands get really sweaty whenever I'm gaming, especially on the controller. I feel like when I'm like playing a game on my controller, like I can feel like I feel like I have to wipe my hand on my shirt like every 10 minutes, and I never feel that way.
Do that if the game's like intense or something.
I guess I don't
if I feel like I'm like I have to nail my button presses, or I'm like running away from something, then my hands get sweaty. But it's not just every game.
I don't feel like I'm for me it's like every game, but I don't feel like I'm death gripping my controller like that, but I just feel like my hands get so sweaty.
And then I death grip my controller, so it's a problem.
And then I wash my hands because I'm like, maybe my hands are just like gross, and then it's you know, then it dries the hands out because of the soap and the alcohol in the soap.
Never ending cycle of pain.
That's right. Sweat. Life is torture and agony. All right, guys.
Thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. Thanks.
Yeah.
Leviathan Den, the Zay, Zone Dog. We appreciate you guys.
That was it.
You the best.
That was it. And you know what? I say that was it. That's not a disappointment. I'm glad to have them. I'm appreciative of each and every one of them being here.
Yeah, they're pure fans. You know, it's concentrated.
That's right.
Not one of these people popping in here telling us how to get followers or asking us to dance like a little monkey. They're real fans. They're here right. since the beginning, since the conception.
Ain't nobody coming in here telling me to react to a Little Rascals movie.
Do it. Fucking do it.
Yeah, bet you won't. I'll react to all 50 minutes. All I do.
All right.
All right. Okay, bye.
Bye.
See ya. See ya.
Oh, thank God that's over.
Oh my
Holy
God,
shit.
I fucking hate this show. Jesus.
That was every episode makes me